That's right. We are finally getting around to your hot takes that you gave me last week or a couple of weeks ago. Like I said last time, I'm going to say it again because I'm that guy. Over 1.7 million views on this tweet or X post, whatever the hell we're calling it. It is crazy. Now, look, I'm going to give you a little bit of a warning here. Some of these are totally nuts, and I'm sure some of them have been said for effect. But now that we all know, let's get into it. Now we start with my man Jose. Jose is always a good guy, and he says the WWE Super Belt is one of the best belts in history. Now listen, man, whatever you want to think is cool by me. I respect your opinion, and I love the fact that you had it to begin with. I don't think that's true. I don't mind custom belts, like the Smoking Skull belt was really cool, the Brahma Bull belt was really cool, and there'll be other ones I'm not thinking about. But if you're going to create a spinner belt, because John Cena was meant to be the hip-hop guy, oh man, I'm so cool, I don't think we then needed to pass it from one person to the next person to the next person. Now, I'm sure the reason we did do that is because WWE was probably making a lot of money of selling those darn things, which is the point of the business. But Jose, I'm going to agree or disagree with all of these. There's going to be a lot of disagreeing, but sorry, my man, I don't agree with you at all. And moving on to Simon Hill, someone else that I'm also very fond of, but bro, we're about to fall out because he wrote, Cody's finished the story angle has become boring and repetitive, and I don't feel like he's a strong enough gimmick to carry the titles after one of the most iconic and impactful storylines in wrestling history. Now, Simon, I did ask for a hot take, and there's a hot take, and I also said if they can be unhinged, that would be even better. I think you're crazy, my friend. Cody Rhodes, top seller in the company right now when it comes to merchandise, selling t-shirts like they were hotcakes. Everyone goes crazy for him. His reactions now are even bigger than they were after he lost at WrestleMania 39. And when the hell does that happen? Because he promised us that he was going to win, and then he didn't do it, and I totally believe that when he finally does pin Roman Reigns, which I'm now convinced is going to be at WrestleMania 40, he is going to become the super duper whooper babyface that we can all get behind. So no, I don't agree with any of that. Not boring, not repetitive. It will be after WrestleMania 40, and he absolutely does have the personality and the character to continue it on. People love this guy, and there's a few people, like your good self, I suppose, that aren't into it, but that's always going to be the way. You can go back and find very early internet posts of people saying, Stone Cold Steve Austin's being shoved down our throats. Imagine we had listened to them too. But hey ho, this is what the comments are for. Let me know. Quick shout out to Grill of Mind here as well, who are now sponsoring my videos. Thank you very much to them. If you go to grillofmind.com/Simon, you can Simon get 10% off. But also today, on the Monday, the 11th of March, 2024, they're launching a brand new pre-workout. And all I'm going to tell you is this is the best stonking pre-workout I've ever had. And we move into Irish wrestling and entertainment that says The Rock versus Steve Austin My Way promo is not as good as people make it out to be. Now, that actually did a decent amount of engagement in that tweet, all things considered. How do I feel about it? I just think it's a good video that I'm watching now and then. I don't think it's the best thing ever. I don't think it's the worst thing ever. I very much like how people do get into it. So I can't really agree or disagree. I'm kind of on the fence with it. It's just a promo video at the end of the day. Like, it's not going to keep me up at night. I guess my advice to you would be don't watch it. AEW Women's Division. So straight away, I mean, I should have probably looked what the rest of that name was. I didn't, so more shame on me. But again, it kind of opens the door. The Royal Rumble kind of sucks, actually. Out of 30 wrestlers, you're lucky if there are 2 people who can credibly win. You also have wrestlers outside the ring for large portions of the match, and wrestlers can be eliminated by people not even in the match. It's an illogical mess. Now, my friends, we would not get on as wrestling folk, because I think this is the worst time to make this hot take, because I do believe that the 2024 Royal Rumble, even though it was won by Cody Rhodes and it was won by Bayley, who you probably could have called before all of this, I actually felt like this was one of the most uncertain Royal Rumbles in ages, especially on the men's side. You could have come up with 8 names, and I'm going, oh yeah, I can totally see what happens. And when it comes to the rules, I've told this on What Culture videos, subscribe to them too. Don't you mess with my Royal Rumble rules. Going back all the way, when Hulk Hogan eliminated Sid, and he'd already been eliminated, that rule can never die. Is it dumb? Yes. Is it stupid? Yes. Is it totally illogical, like you said? Yes. Is it the greatest thing ever? Absolutely. I love the fact somebody can be eliminated, and then the eliminated person comes back, and they can just throw people out. Doesn't make any sense. It is the epitome of 2 + 2 = potato, but I swear, if you make a noise and get that removed, I'm going to go on the internet, I'm going to moan at you. No. Chris the Cool, so he must be a cool cat, says Stardust is a pretty great character. I don't get why people think it's bad. Well, I'll tell you why it was a great character. It's because Cody Rhodes committed. And if you go through any kind of persona he has done, he has committed 100% to every single one of them. I think the reason people don't like it is because he has now proven Cody has been, well, he's gone on to be so much more than that. And Stardust was always going to pigeonhole him in a very specific level, which is what annoyed him in the first place. So, yes, don't mind the character, just totally miscast. Shaun of the Dead, shout out to Sean, always a good dude, says there's a lot of talk about people not knowing who certain wrestlers are before they wrestle. Now, when I used to watch Robot Wars, I didn't know what a Ming 3 was or what the long-term story was between Hypno Disc and Wheelie Big Cheese, but I just watched it and enjoyed it. So this is a long old debate on the internet that continues to rage. And here are my 2 thoughts on it. Do I think it's a good idea to try and introduce brand new characters as best as you can? Yes. If I'm watching any kind of television show and Brad walks in, it would be great if I could just get some exposition of people explaining who Brad is. But at the same time, if no one tells me who Brad is, do I really really care? No, because I've got other problems I need to worry about. And especially within the scheme or the process of professional wrestling, because you can just Google it, and because they are real people that they've been performing elsewhere, like Brad would be walking into a completely fictional environment. Like, we don't know where Brad came from, who's Brad's relationships. We have to be told that. Whereas if a Mystico, for example, turns up in AEW and you don't know who it is, yes, they should be telling you. But if they don't, you can just jump on the internet and you'll be able to find out all the details you need in around about 10 seconds. So it's a kind of an either or. Listen, man, if I don't know who somebody is, I'm like, I should know. And I don't care. So I actually probably lean more towards you, Sean, on this, I would say. I do think it's an oversight of the company when they don't do it. But no one is really being featured in major positions when this does happen. They are making more cameos and in elements like that. So if they are going to have a longer run, you're going to learn anyway as we do go. But yeah, Sean, I think I do agree with you. I mean, who really cares? We're all going to be dead one day. Don't want to worry about it. Gerard MC, hopefully is spinning some good rhymes, says fans complain about storytelling, aren't mad at the storytelling, they're mad that it's not what they want. Well, I think that's kind of true for all walks of life. I mean, they're probably just trying to tell you they don't like the story. The only thing I don't get, just to spin it a little bit, you'll have to forgive me, Jarrett, is I don't get this whole AEW doesn't have stories. There's so many stories. Like, again, I think you're probably right, actually, to be fair. Doesn't mean that they have to be good stories to you, but there are so many damn stories. Even the stuff with Will Ospreay and Bryan Danielson, right? Everyone has gone, oh, there's no story here. Look, I'm not saying it's a particularly deep story, but they literally both came out on Collision and went, I think I'm the best. And the one, well, I think I'm the best. And the other one was like, well, I've heard people talk about you outside of this company. Well, I've heard people talk about you inside this company. All right, let's fight and we'll see who the best person is. That's it. No need to hit the table. That is the end of the story. Now, you don't have to like it. You don't have to agree with it. You could think, oh man, we should be extending this for a little bit and maybe getting a home invasion in there, which wrestling likes to do. But that still counts as a story, right? It just does. It doesn't have much depth to it, but that's not the point. So yes, I probably do think that that is accurate, to say the least. I don't necessarily think it's a hot take though. Basically, haters gonna hate. Trick Willie, that was a bit worrying, says WWE should add a third hour to SmackDown and add a women's show on Thursdays. No way to both. SmackDown is fine as it is. You can see it in the ratings, and I know so many times I finish watching SmackDown and I want more. That's the greatest feeling when you're talking about entertainment. And listen, while a women's show on its own would be great, that is not going to help things, in my humble opinion. You can come and tell me I'm wrong. What we need to do, given that we're just focused on WWE here, we'll focus on both, otherwise people go crazy. So from most week to week, WWE has 5 hours of programming, and AEW also has 5 hours of programming, right? Because you've got 2, 2, 5. Right, so both have 5 hours of programming. If I've got it wrong, I'm an idiot, get mad at me, it's totally cool. But what we should be doing is we should be taking those 5 hours of programming that are being presented as our A shows or our 8.5 shows or whatever, and making sure there is a healthy balance between men's, women, and women's wrestling. Because if you do that, then you present everyone as a superstar. As soon as you start saying, oh man, there's a magical show over here, I actually think you lessen the efforts of people that are getting involved. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that there wouldn't be upsides to it that we could talk about, but not on this video. But if we are trying to fix wrestling, for lack of a better term, that's what I think we should do. Also, there is enough wrestling television on at the moment. Ain't nothing need an extra hour. El Hijo de Pavo Real, which is the greatest name, no one's going to top that, says Jeff Jarrett is the greatest professional wrestler to ever live. I mean, I'm not going to argue with him. Are you? No. JP says The Undertaker is the most overrated wrestler of all time. Now, this is something that has gathered steam in sort of a certain pocket of the IWC over the last few years. I think it's tremendously unfair, although again, that tweet did do very good engagement. Now, the two things I always look at this, I remember how he used to make me feel when I was a kid, and nobody captivated me or made me go, oh my gosh, it's amazing, as much as The Undertaker. And I don't believe, and this is not saying that he was bad in the ring, but to me, when it comes to wrestling, it's what's your character, what's your overall presentation, what's your promo works like, you know, they're all these little things. And anyone, like I say, that can get my eyes that wide when I'm watching something on my TV, I don't think you can call overrated. But also go and listen to all of his peers. All of his peers speak volumes about The Undertaker and what he brought to the business. So even if we don't see it as fans, I don't think you can call it overrated. And I don't think you can go for 30 years plus if you're overrated. And really, I think when it came to The Undertaker, it all depended on who his dance partner was. So you put him with who was a rubbish match? A Giant Gonzalez, it's absolutely crap, as The Undertaker has talked about. You put him with a Shawn Michaels and you're getting an amazing match. And you can say, oh, that was because of Shawn Michaels. That's not how wrestling works. It has to take two people, right? You can carry someone to a certain extent, but the other person absolutely has to have something in there. So no, I don't agree with that. I think maybe a lot of this comes from the real life Mark Calloway and his opinions maybe shuffling across to real life, which is also fair. You're allowed to do that totally. But in terms of the character and the rest of The Undertaker, no, I do not believe he was overrated. Ice-T Curtis says every wrestler botches no matter how good they are. Yep, I hate the word botches. I know you're using it in a somewhat positive light, but it's not even a botch. You made a mistake. You made an error. It's like live TV, you tripped, you slipped, you fell on a banana peel, right? It's not a big deal. It's not a problem. And actually happening makes wrestling more realistic if that's what you're going after, because nobody would be as smooth as my stupid bald head. So no, don't like it when people call it botches, don't like it when people laugh. I think there are some elements, not overall, everyone is allowed an opinion on wrestling, and everybody should be allowed to say whatever they want about anyone. Criticize. But I think things like that, to get a proper take on it, you actually have to experience what it's like to be in a wrestling ring. Because as soon as you do get in a wrestling ring and you try and do a match, all of a sudden you realize even dropping an elbow drop on somebody is the hardest thing ever. So if someone is going to do a triple springboard plancha moonsault 630, there's a high risk of error. So when it does happen, you just go, well, of course that was going to happen. It's actually more amazing that they hit it as much as they do. Dylan says, ban the super kick unless it finishes a match. No way, brah. Do the super kick more. I love the super kick. Always looks good. Always sounds good. Winds the right kind of people up. Give it to me more. Young Bucks and Usos for life. The world famous Pom, and again, I've cut that off there. It's worrying, isn't it? Says Cyndi Lauper is more important to wrestling history than Hulk Hogan. Well, that's a ridiculous thing to say. Cyndi Lauper is massively important, and she should have been the Hall of Fame like 10 years ago. She should go in this year. Why the hell not? Like, without that rock and roll connection before WrestleMania and what WWF were doing with MTV, and Mr. T too, you may not get the public recognition that WWF was desperate for. But in order to then expand on all that, and to get to the first WrestleMania to begin with, you need a Hulk Hogan, right? You just do. You need your poster boy. You need the person that's going to lead the company forward. And Cyndi Lauper just made a lot of noise because she was Slindy flipping Lauper. And then people saw Hulk Hogan and they're like, wow. Where if it's me, you're probably not going to get the same kind of reaction. So it's not really a chicken and egg scenario, but it's heading in that direction. You need Cyndi Lauper's input. You need Hulk Hogan's input. All the people that are notable with professional wrestling, you probably needed their input at some point for it to get where it is today. Very sadly, that's both on the positive and the negative side. So no, I don't agree. UK wrestling fan says Tate Mayfair is the best wrestler in Europe. Dude, I ain't going to argue with you. Just because I don't like Tate, and just because we've had like a mega feud over the last few years, I said it in my promos before most of our matches. The biggest problem with Tate is that he is as good as he is, but he still decides to cheat. So he's still a massive a-hole, but I do respect him. Lucy, and I want to shout out Lucy. Her account is at LucyIsJustLucy on X. Everyone should follow Lucy. She's a wonderful account, genuinely funny, positive vibes. I like it a lot. And she says Orange Cassidy is one of the greatest, smartest, and hardest working wrestlers of all time. Lucy, you will not get an argument from me. In my best of 2023 list, or 2022, I can't remember, I put Orange Cassidy as number 1 as the best wrestler of that year, and I totally stand by it. Everything he did with that international title was amazing. He understands goofy wrestling, he understands serious wrestling, he understands modern wrestling, and I bet if he wanted to, he could do an old school classic as well. Orange Cassidy, as far as I'm concerned, is massively underrated just because some people don't like the gimmick. And actually, when you break it all down and you strip everything inside and look at the goo in his bones, the man is flabbing brilliant. Agreed. Steve says Roman is the most overrated wrestler of all time. You can't name one match that he's had. Well, you're not trying, dude. That's a silly thing to say. We can go back to when he was still the big dog and he had that match with Bryan Danielson, or Daniel Bryan at the time. That was amazing. Once again, Roman does not get to the top of the industry because he's crap at what he does. He's really good. Now, that's not me saying that you have to like his matches. Maybe you think his matches suck, but I actually think sometimes we have to kind of look at this from a more subjective point of view and go, well, there are certain things he's doing. He's making money. He's putting butts in seats. He's selling merchandise. He had one of the best groups of all time in terms of engagement and people starting to watch. I don't think you can call him overrated. You're allowed, and I'd be happy to sit down and debate it with you, but coming back to your tweet, I say not. Seth Fracker, which is probably offensive somehow too, says, oh, it's another one. Rey Mysterio is overrated, and although good, he is not a world champion guy. That is the worst one yet. Like, Rey Mysterio literally changed wrestling, right? Without Rey Mysterio, you ain't getting no flippy-dippy-doo star stuff. You ain't getting small guys getting opportunities and getting their foot in the door. Rey Mysterio was laughed at backstage in WCW because he was so tiny, and he still went there and he totally smashed it, right? He is a one-of-a-time generational talent. Once again, you don't have to like what he does, but you can't say he's overrated because his quite objective influence on the business is right there looking at you in the face. And also, if we talk about it from my vantage point, he's an incredible wrestler. We do retro ups and downs on what culture. There are so many times he pops up in this era and that decade and he does this over here. The dude is all-time legendary status, and he should go into every single Hall of Fame there is. Kai says wrestling would be better without dirt sheets. Well, that's not technically true. I mean, the reason I got back into wrestling after my short hiatus when I went to university, because I had no access to it, is because I was amazed by the dirt sheets. I was amazed what people were talking about behind the scenes. So without that, I may not have got back into it. And also, you can just ignore them. It's well easy to ignore dirt sheets. You can just do it. People actively choose to read this stuff, and then they get annoyed about it. At least that's my hot take when it comes to that. So, no, and also, I think what we forget as well, there are quote-unquote dirt sheets is in any sport. I spend half my time reading about Premier League rumours and news stories and someone stuck in here and done this. It's just journalism or whatever you want to call it. If you want to ignore it, fine. If you don't, dive right in and just enjoy it for what it is. The Deliver It says Randy Orton is boring. These are so stupid. And has no character. His wrestling is mid and only has the RKO to hype the crowd. Well, a lot of people say the most important things in wrestling are your entrance and your finish. So if you have a finish that over, you've done something right. Also, he's not mid. Once again, we go back to the argument. Go and listen to any other wrestler. Any one of his peers talk about him, they all rant and rave. And actually, when you do see the small things he does do, he's actually one of the greatest wrestlers ever. And he does have a character. He's Randy Orton. That's the most ridiculous one yet. Anton says throwing a human being towards the ropes and then bouncing back towards you is the most cartoonish thing that everyone just accepts as normal. You're right, my man. That's why wrestling is brilliant. And this just ties back into the debate where people go, oh, wrestling's not as serious as it used to be. That happens every generation. If you watch wrestling in the 60s, by the time the 70s come around, there's a bunch of people going, oh, it's so stupid. Then you move to the 80s and the same people are saying about the 70s, the 90s, and so on and so forth. Wrestling has to evolve. Wrestling has to move forward. And yes, when you do look at it that way, if I tried to whip you into the ropes, why would you keep running? You just put the brakes on and turn around and go, no, brah, I ain't gonna do it. Harry says American Badass Biker Taker is better than the Mortician Deadman Taker. WrestleMania 19 is as good, if not better than WrestleMania 17. Well, WrestleManias are not massively fussed about because it's going to depend on who your characters and who your guys are and what matches you bought into. I like both 19 and 17. But you are totally wrong about Badass American Biker Taker. I like Biker Taker. I'm a Deadman guy. That was my favorite gimmick, as we kind of already touched upon. And the only time I never really got into The Undertaker was when he was driving around on a motorbike. Now, I'm not saying he shouldn't have done that. I actually think him doing that gave him the longevity that he did have. But again, in terms of me watching it, just didn't float my boat. There we go. So a lot of those hot takes were just saying this guy's overrated, and I do have a ton more. So depending on how this video does, I may do one every week or every couple of weeks or one a month or something like that, because again, that tweet did go crazy. You're more than welcome to throw more in the comments below too. And when you are there, make sure you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Click the notification bell and click the video on the screen. And this is from the same tweet that I did with proper wrestlers reacting to their own hot takes. That's kind of crazy. Already mentioned Gorilla Mind too, so please do get your fitness supplements from there. Patreon.com/Simon316. Simon316 on Instagram and Twitter. Simon J. Miller on TikTok. Simon on Cameo. If you want some kind of a shout out. Pro Wrestling Tees and Samson Athletics for t-shirts. Please buy one of those. That would make me happy. Otherwise, that's it. That's the end of the video. Quite down today because I had a whole new setup over there in the corner. I'm looking at it right now, but it looks terrible. So I need to go sort that out somehow. So we'll stick with the rainy New York background for now. But change is coming, my friends. See you soon.